morning, Los Angeles. I'm Al Wazron.
And I'm Faye Canoes.
Our top story today, the world is ending. We're going to Pat the Logical Liar, who is live on the scene. Pat, are you there?
Here I am. There's nukes going off in the background. The world is in fact ending. The floods are coming. There are zombies practically everywhere. And aliens have in fact come down and abducted the hottest women, 7s and above.
Oh no, I could be next.
You're fine, Faye.
Oh, look at that. That's something new. I think a demon just crossed my path.
Are you in any kind of danger?
Yeah, I don't think I could be in any more danger than I am. Right?
Ha 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 ha. Oh my goodness. Well, guys, it's David Vose again, and I'm back. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It is a beautiful, beautiful day, and it already sprinkled a little bit today. So here come the monsoons. I'm ready for it, but it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. Hope you're having a wonderful day where you are. Well, that's kind of funny, that clip. But, you know, I think I would enjoy the truth. That would be the way the news probably should run today. When we see people giving us the news, it seems like they're just nonchalantly telling us the world's coming to an end. And they don't seem to be upset about it. They even seem to be happy about it. They're glad that we now have a president that is leading us into the one world government where we're all going to be controlled. Everybody knows we're going to be controlled by AI. We're already, to the extent that we're already controlled, which is very serious. I mean, they know and watch you and monitor us. I guess the only thing that is not happening at the moment is that when they're monitoring us and watching us, they haven't actually outwardly pretended to tell us what to do. Well, yeah, that once for about 4 years we had to wear this clown mask for a while, or else we wouldn't be able to eat and, you know, work, or we'd get fired, or, you know, or they took us into the ODENs down at the Auschwitz, and, you know, or maybe a stop off at a concentration camp. But that wasn't too bad, so we didn't mind that, of course. I mean, come on now, it's only 4 years that we really couldn't do what we pleased, or, you know, that they made us put some Monsanto chemical, I don't know, concoction into our veins and told us to call them in the morning and make sure to come back in a month or so and get another oral examination so they could check out all those weird bumps that were coming out all over our face and so forth. But hey, small price to pay for safety. And aren't we glad they're taking care of us and watching over us, because they only want to help you. Well, if the news were presented correctly, somebody would be coming on there and say, beep, 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 beep. Oh my goodness, breaking news. Well, actually, no, we're lying. It's not breaking. This has been going on for like 100 years. But you're done. They're coming to take away all your freedoms. So, yeah, it's probably over. By the way, your wife just left you. Your children said, we're going to live with the state because they allow us to have sex on the weekends and parties with the satanic covens. You know what? It's wonderful living alone. And hey, don't take that the wrong way. It's not like it's a really hard thing to do. I mean, normally back in the day, you know, being lonely was not something you wanted. But nowadays it's wonderful because life got so hard in the 70s and 80s, you know, running around with your job and get-togethers and family reunions and, you know, TV night with the family and, oh, I don't know, going fishing, saving up for that new house or car, the 2-car garage. Back when the cul-de-sacs were not so controlled, and you could actually put a U.S. flag on your porch without somebody calling the police because they're offended. The Muslims down the road, that just moved in. There's like, I don't know, they got a whole, they just came in and bulldozed the whole field, built this 3-story mega project living center. Let's not call it apartments because it was nice. They got fountains and weight rooms and it was like just amazing, beautiful gardens. And they don't even have stairs. It's like elevators. And then they moved all these people in from Vietnam or some people from, I don't know where they, Pakistanis or whatever. They're all, you can't even understand. And they all got brand new cars, hatchbacks that come pulling in. The hatch just lifts by itself, and they got all the groceries that they went to the store, and like thousands of dollars of groceries. They just keep bringing in the house, and like several families living in each one of these places. The women wearing black scarves covering their faces. The men look like they're wearing Rolexes. You hardly see them at all. I don't know where they go. They take off in their Lamborghini and, or a helicopter comes and picks them up. And I guess they're flying them out to the riots in the cities or whatever. But these guys, they got food stamps. They got HUD housing. They're getting payments. And I don't know what they're doing with all this, but there it is. Remember that song? Oh, man, that was like 20-some years ago or something like that. I remember it was a song come on the radio. It was like, there it is. There it is. I never could get that out of my head. Oh, what a crazy line to have stuck in your head. This keeps repeating, right? Somehow somebody put the loop on the LP and it just kept playing and playing in your brain, Yeah, those were the days, but not anymore, Yeah, we got rid of all that boring stuff where we just had 4 on the floor standard transmissions, and now we got automatics, right? Well, yeah, we're getting, better all the time. Now we can hold our coffee, steaming hot and not have to put it down. Remember we used to have those little round things where you could put your coffee? Well, you don't need to do that anymore. You could just hold your coffee in your left hand, and in your right hand, you could have a sausage McMuffin and a little hash brown. Are those hash browns or what is that? Some sort of plastic Monsanto creation or something? I don't know what those little oval little brown things are that they fry. They're kind of good, but I imagine they would rip your gut fauna right out of your system. That, along with the supersonic bagel, cream cheese, and peanut butter brittle sausage, egg, pumpernickel with pickles, That's probably the most amazing feeling you'll ever have in your life. Popping that in your mouth, drinking scalding coffee, driving 100 miles an hour down the 9-lane freeway. Don't worry, you probably won't have an accident. Unless, of course, somebody pulls out in front of the guy in front of you because you're tailgating him. And, of course, somebody else is tailgating you. It's like wall to wall, 70 miles an hour. Cars passing, whing, whing, 1 inch from your mirror. You ever get that weird feeling when you're trying to pass a semi, an 18-wheeler, and you're wondering, I wonder if they know I'm here? Like, if they decided to swerve over into this lane, I'd be like underneath the semi trailer. Like, they would probably decapitate me, but we'd just be drugged all the way to Tennessee. I don't know, but yeah, it's a wonderful world, and now everybody gets to enjoy it, even the terrorists. Oh, buddy. And if you don't think that's true, watch this little clip. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I have a question. I'm going to show you the clip, and then I'm going to ask you the question. Here you go.
The mayor of London is Muslim. The mayor of Birmingham is a Muslim. The mayor of Leeds is Muslim. The mayor of Blackburn is Muslim. The mayor of Sheffield is Muslim. The mayor of Oxford is a Muslim. the mayor of Luton is a Muslim. The mayor of Oldham is a Muslim. The mayor of Rochdale is a Muslim. All of this was achieved by only 4 million Muslims out of the 66 million people in England. Today in England, there are over 3,000 mosques. There are over 130 Sharia courts in England, and there are more than 50 Sharia councils. 78% of Muslim women do not work and receive state support and free accommodation. 63% of Muslims do not work and receive state support and free housing. State-supported Muslim families have an average of 6 to 8 children who all receive free accommodation. Every school in the UK is required to teach about Islam. The number one most common baby name in England is Muhammad. This is not immigration. This is invasion.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know how bad it was, but I've been hearing about all these people going into Britain from all around the world, and they went, I guess, into a lot of the countries in Germany and France and different places. They're just bringing them in, and they're bringing them in here too. I mean, it's been going on for a lot of years. I was in LA last few months ago with visiting my daughter, and there at the school where she was, all of the people taking classes looked like they were from some Arab country. They were wearing veils and turbans or whatever. It was crazy. I don't even know what kind of a people would be so indoctrinated into some ritualistic religious procedure every morning, banging her head against the wall. Gotta wrap your turban, make sure your robe is all the way down to your ankles, and can't have any spots that are bigger than an inch. And I mean, their diet is restricted. They got to eat what they got to eat. They got to do what they got to do. And they're praying to some invisible. Have you noticed these? Have you noticed that the Tik Toks and the shorts on YouTube are really getting interesting, but they're very enlightening, and they seem to be enlightening, but they're not. They're twisted. And I don't think most people notice it, but they seem to show and demonstrate with AI how ridiculous religion is. And that part's true. It's exposing how ridiculous it is to have people with their hands in the air, in the name of dying, in the name of dying, be gone, Satan, and you demon of alcoholism, and you demon of prostitution. Hey, by the way, when are we going out for dinner after the get together? I mean, let's stand here in the dark in some crazy room, and some man, with his hands all over you. You've probably seen Benny Hinn with his thousands of people in the crowd, and he's, slaying them in the spirit, and they're all falling down. What kind of people? Which evidently appears to be everybody. Millions of people in the Middle East, millions of people in the East, and people here in America, right? Modern, I don't know, Americans. They're completely all running around brainwashed, doing these weird, crazy rituals and having certain dress codes, like Jehovah's Witnesses got to wear a suit and tie, and they won't talk to anybody. Have to go to their little kingdom hall. They have their little beliefs, doing their little black mass every day. And it's like, and the religion that seems to be running it all are these little beanie cap guys over there beating their head up against some wall, some sacred wall that they don't know happens to be Herod's temple. Have you ever thought about that? Herod was from Edom. They called them the Edomians, or the children of Esau. And they lived right there in Palestine. And the Jewish Israeli people lived right next to them. And I guess in the days of Jesus, they all went up to the temple that was created by the Edomites, Esau. Supposedly their God hated him. And so that temple had to have been influenced by Edomians. If not, why did they get their king in there? And who were these Samaritans that hated the Israelites? And Jesus went up there and talked to one of them. They had their own mountain and their own way of worshiping. And this was, remember, in an area about the size of New Hampshire, New Jersey, that little state of Palestine. All these millions of people, like the Philistines and the Amorites and the Hittites, Girgazites and the Uzziites and the Izziites, Gigibites. This is another thing that's been really making me go, I was looking at Fox News, and the guy that is one of the main guys on that news hour, or whatever they call it, is Kilme, right? His name is Kilme. This is Brian Kilme, over and out, and that's the news, right? Literally crazier than a bug's ear. I have seen this over and over. These people that have names. I've noticed it all throughout the week. Lawyers named Getcha or Gotcha or Hatecha, or doctors named Malpractice or something like that. But it's very odd. Anywho, my question is, I told you I had a question for you. If they're doing this to that degree, not only are they bringing them in, they tell you about that. Oh, we're just upset because they brought all these Pakistanians in. But what they probably don't tell us is that they're promoting them or financing them to run for some office. We even saw this in Congress. Some lady from Africa or Nigeria or the Bangladesh or something is now a senator, and she's totally upset. She hates the country she's a senator of. She's burning one of our flags. I mean, there's all kinds of senators and Congress people coming in from other countries and running for office. Now, how do they end up getting into office? Well, they've got to be financed. It costs billions of dollars. And you notice they'll usually finance somebody like a minority, some single mom or whatever, and they tell her, look, we'll give you millions of dollars. Just read the script, man. And these people don't know. All they're like fighting to get more money. We want Cheerios and Krispy Kremes to be served at our children's breakfast, dadgummit. And we definitely need more holidays and higher wages. And, by the way, why don't we just pay people to stay home, right? And give them a check. Yeah, that's what they're lobbying for. And of course, what's happening is when you do that, you're developing a country of a bunch of people that rely on government, and they're going to vote more government in. And relying on more government and voting in more government and then paying other rebel rousers to go and burn down the cities, it's literally a plot to take over the United States and Europe and all over around the world from the inside out. Notice that when we went over there to Afghanistan and we, I guess, had a little war and then we quit, right? Or went to Iraq, had a little war and then we stopped and claimed we gave it back to them. From that point, we started having Pakistanians and Afghanistanians and Iraqis, and we got Iranians over here in our country, all wearing turbans and And so in their country, for years, they've been financing and sponsoring these crazy cult religions. And then they start bringing them over here. At the same time, for the last 50 years, they've been creating cult-like weird religions here in America. Like Jehovah's Witnesses having the Black Mass every year. And insisting that they don't want to vote. They're just going to let Satan take over the world. And they're hoping for Armageddon, right? Well, I'm hoping for it now at this point because I'm sick of the world that we're living in, and I know that it's of the devil, and I know that it was prophesied that Jesus is coming. So I understand, I guess, that part of it. But my point here is that when we have these wars, and by the way, I can go back further when it used to be, and I would see this all the time. I was in one neighborhood one time, and there was a whole huge apartment complex that they just built, all brand new. All brand new. And they had like carports and like I said, just like I described before, they had these hatchbacks are coming in there. And all these people that were in that area were from Laos. And in that area, in the schools where all the Americans went to, those areas where those people from Laos were coming, they were infested with lice, because I guess that's where the word lice comes from. They got a lot of lice over there in Laos, and they're bringing it over here. And all the kids had lice. Well, all these people from Laos in an apartment complex that was like, there must have been hundreds of people living in there, and more than one family in each apartment, probably. And they got brand new cars and their, food stamps. And I mean, they get like $500 a month food stamps. They're just eating high on the hog. And their husbands are out running around, rioting and joining, look at Obama. He became president, born in Nigeria, maybe. His father was a communist. His mother was a communist. He literally got into politics by becoming some kind of acorn leader, kind of like Black Lives Matter, like an organization that goes around. It was called a terrorist organization. A lot of you probably don't remember that. He was involved in terrorism. And it was communists that put him into office. But it seems like the whole government is run by these same individuals, that their plan, these liberals, socialists, communists, / Satan worshipers, their only goal, and remember, many of them are truly believers in their particular cult, or else they wouldn't be wearing these turbans night and day, right? But they're fanatics, and they're told, yeah, come on over and let's go out there and harass these evil Americans and rip up their flag and burn them in the streets, and we'll bring in Sharia law. Come on now, go out there. Do it. And this is what they're doing. But then they got another group over here in some other city that's a bunch of Pakistanians or whatever. Or another group over here is a bunch of Iranians. Now, if they got Iranians in this country by the thousands, and they are the one that installed this crazy guy. By the way, I'm going to show you a picture. The Ayatollah Tomoni, or whatever, the Honimoni guy ruling that country, they used to be the Shah of Iran, and we assassinated him, took him out, and the United States put the Ayatollah Khomeini in. And that Ayatollah Khomeini that's running all of these, Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthi Tutsis and all these things, is a CIA, Israeli intelligence-backed psyop to take down the world. I've told you how they used to do it in South America. They still do. They took down Venezuela this way. Pope Francis was involved in this rebel rousing and rioting, and children, in the university, getting them all worked up and, trying to take their minds from their children and putting them on drugs and, all the things that's going on, friends. It blows my mind. But just take a look at this. Now, that's the guy. We've blown him up. He was on that last picture. Now, take a very good look at this. This is another picture of him. Is he resembling somebody you know? Oh, yeah. Take a look. I wrote in AI, show me pictures of Jewish men. This is what they look like. And these are just pictures of wise rabbis or something. And, I mean, they always have the beard and some kind of hat. And they have large nose, and they tend to have these big ears, and they're light skinned. Certainly not Arabs. You can tell that's not an Arab. They're Ashkenazi, which is up around in the Azerbaijan area, which is, what is his name? The Khomeini or whatever his name is. He is Azerbaijanian, or however you say that. It's a Turkic Azerbaijani. They're the largest minority in Iran, so they're not Iranians. So this Khomeini guy, the supreme leader of Iran, is not Persian. He's not an Iranian. He's from an ethnic group up in northern Iran that are Turkic. Remember, Turkey used to be called the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire is where all of these Jewish refugees, many of them went. So there are many thousands of Jewish refugees, mountain Jews, and various groups that live in that area. And there were a lot of time for centuries before, in modern times, the Jewish people were welcomed there. They had a good life in Iran, and they were wealthy, and they had businesses. They're very industrious. And this is because they have their little cult religion where they all go to synagogue, just like any group, like Mormons or whatever, have a little secret organization. They can they're not part of society. They can end up doing well because they help each other. And they were certainly involved in banking. They could finance each other. They were involved in all kinds of political things. So when they lived up there in the Ottoman Empire, that was when in World War I, they stole Palestine from the Ottoman Empire. Now, why do you think that the Ottoman Empire, or Turkey, was the one who basically ruled Palestine? Well, they're the same people that rule Iran and Syria. These individuals, whoever they weren't Persian, they weren't Arabian. These were refugees that had financial backing, just like the people that are getting into office up in Wisconsin and Michigan, and they're from other countries. They represent a small minority, like in Britain, 4,000 people compared to 66 million or whatever it is. But this 4,000 strong group of people from some other country that were brought over here are all now the governors and the senators all over Britain because they're financed by their family. These aren't even Afghanistanians. They're not Iranians. They're not Bangladesh people. They're all... Remember, this one group of people are in many different countries. They purposely infiltrate into countries, religions, groups, and dress up like some crazy occult or cult leader and take over the country. I know, it sounds like you wouldn't believe it, right? But it's going on. It's been going on. The entire Middle East is being run by a family who pretend to be different groups, right? And Putin, who is also of this particular group, Trotsky, Lenin, they're all the same. They're little short guys. They literally claim to be Christian, or they'll claim to be some of, they just play a part and hide what they're doing from the unsuspecting folks. Now, the people always know for years that why is it some group of individuals that only make up 2% of the population of Russia are running this country? Well, that happened in Russia, Dave. We know that. But certainly that couldn't have happened in all of Palestine, Iran, Pakistan, India, wherever. No matter what country it is, this family's integrated, infiltrated, pretended to be one of them, joined their religion, claimed they're Muslim or claimed they're Christian or claimed that they're Jewish or claimed whatever they claimed. This is where the Ashkenazis were, up in Romania, Turkey, and they're almost like Russian Turks. They're not Arabians. They're not Iranians. They are white individuals with the exact same big, I won't say, they just have certain features. They always wear these beards. They always end up wearing hats. And they always got some crazy religion where they're beating their head up against the wall. And like cult leaders leading the populace to some insanity. Controlling by division. One country, they'll say, is Jewish. Another country is Islam. Another country is this kind of Islam, or Sufi, or Sunni, or whatever different kinds. And they all fight against one another. It's designed to be that way. Take a look at these guys. They all have the same beard, hair, ears, nose, eyes. Yeah, they're individuals. They all look a little different. But these guys are obviously not Arabs that we're looking at here. They are not Iranians. If you look at Iranian people, they don't look anything. They look more Indian or something. This is not an Indian. This is Azerbaijani, from the Azerbaijani minority in Iran that is probably a greater majority in other various countries up in Turkey and up in Russia. The Ashkenazi individuals took over all those countries, Russia included, all the way down through the Middle East. It literally is biblically the Gog of Magog, a group of federation of nations, the 10 horns that shall hate the harlot and burn her with fire. All right, have you seen what these guys look like? Are you looking very carefully? Now let's go back to the other picture. If you look at the guy there on the right, Khomeini, he's white. He does not look Indian. He does not look Arabian. He doesn't look Egyptian. He doesn't look Saudi Arabian. He doesn't look Indian or Afghanistanian or Pakistanian. He's certainly not Iranian. Now, it doesn't matter who or what he is. He's certainly white, but we don't know, he's from a northern region, northern Iran, which is a minority that most of those individuals live up into Russia. They're Russian, many of them are into Russia. And most of them were just in that whole area. They were scattered there somewhere. They got there somehow. And this is the area, the Ottoman Empire, that when it was, after World War I, they took the land of Palestine that belonged to the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire didn't say anything like, oh, hey, you can't take that from us. Why didn't they say anything? Because they were the ruling power in the Ottoman Empire. And they all moved down to, that's where they came from, most of them. They came to the land of Palestine, stole their houses, burned them out, whatever, and took over the land. A small minority took over Palestine. A small minority took over Iran. A small minority took over Turkey and over Romania and over Russia and over all Pakistan, all of them. And started cult followings and crazy fanaticism in various religions. And then got the people to think that they were their ruling class. Like the Pope, who is this Pope guy? Wow, we Christians, we don't even like it. Oh, they're taking us to the Inquisitor. They're writing a paper bull against us. We're anathema. They're going to execute us all. But they enter into every country, including Italy. Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about Florence, Italy. if you look into it, you'll find there was a big ghetto there. Why was there a ghetto? Do you know what a ghetto is? In the ghetto. Remember Elvis? Jewish. Sung about the ghetto. And the ghetto is a Jewish area where Jewish people live. It's not the slums, it's the ghetto. And the ghetto is where the Jews live in Florence. And they had pretty much the rule of all of Italy. They were many of the popes were Jewish. That's why they're still wearing their little beanie caps. No matter what religion or wherever they go, they got to wear their little hat because that's their religion. Cover the head. Wear a beard. Don't cut the sides of your, the side locks of your beard or your hair. So some of them are very fanatic, the Orthodox, and they're wearing the little curly locks, because they don't want to cut the sides of their hair. Others just understand that means don't cut your beard. So like the Khomeini, he doesn't have, his beard's long. Why do they got that? What is it? What is it? Some sort of, mark of I'm the king lion? I've got to have this long beard? Why is it in all the cultures, these long beards? Because this is Jewish religion. They must wear it. And to get some kind of understanding with this, to kind of give an example so that we see that this is tradition, not only there in Russia, where 2% of the population rules them, but let's go back to the Bible itself. Remember, there's an odd story called the Old Testament. And in this odd story, we have this chosen people living somewhere. Some say it was Palestine. I believe they lived in the greater area, not just Palestine. And Jerusalem, the original Jerusalem, was down at Heliopolis. So Solomon had 1,000 wives. Why? We're never told. Because all of the royal bloodline in every nation, 1,000 nations, were descendants of Solomon and David. King David had 700 wives. So they all go back to the house of David. Now, that's a royal bloodline, but certainly only Jews recognize that. Well, why then did the Queen of Sheba want to have a child, and her child went back to Sheba and ruled Sheba? Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, was a Jewish descendant of Solomon and Bathsheba. Look it up in the Jewish Midrash or the Talmud. They have all the history there. It's real history. They talk about Jesus, son of Pandera, Yeshu or Isa. They say he was not born of a virgin, but a whore, right? But that's how they see it. They also explain that Solomon had all these children and they reigned over all the different nations. And they tell you very clearly that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, was of Jewish descent, of royal blood. That is why the royal houses of every nation don't look anything like the people that live there. The Khomeini is a white guy. He's not Iranian. And now the Mexican people are being reigned over by another Bavarian that recently was elected out of nowhere because these are the ones that are financed. So look at Babylon and ask yourself this question, because this seems to be the big story. Jerusalem did something wrong. Yahweh, their deity, didn't like it, so he punished them. He made them go into exile to Babylon. Now remember, before that, the 10 tribes of northern Israel, they went into exile to Assyria. And from Assyria, at Nineveh, which was the main area where they were scattered into every nation on the face of the earth, became Galilee, or the circuit of the nations. All the nations, fulfilling the prophecy of Joseph to go over the wall as a bountiful branch by a well, having plenty of water, go over the wall. and go to the extremities of the earth and become a multitude of all nations and peoples and tribes and tongues, and be mixed in with the nations and like seed and grow up together. Now remember, these 10 tribes were never supposed to have a king. When they demanded a king, their deity got mad at him. But at some point, they had judges, which was a priesthood from Moses, you know. Moses, remember, had the Melchizedek priesthood originally, but they chose vengeance. They didn't want love and the grace. Our Heavenly Father didn't like that. So he put this fallen angel in charge of them, this Molech that gave them all these laws of sacrifice and vengeance and slavery. And they went following after it. And their king, or Molech, that's what Molech means, king. Molech, their king. So they chose this king, which is the devil, Yahweh. And they ended up wanting a man to be their king like the other nations. But the king had to be of the tribe of Judah. Now remember, all the world then is Israel. The 10 tribes are scattered all over the world, but they don't have their own king. They are ruled over by that one tribe, Judah. So now, here we are. Solomon has a kid named Nebuchadnezzar. Solomon's of the tribe of David of Judah. So that's the ruling line. That is in Babylon. A lineage of David ruling over Babylon and every other country. And notice in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 17, read the whole chapter. It's a parable about an eagle that comes to this great tree, a cedar tree, and takes a tender branch. Well, look at the whole thing and you'll see that the tree represents this lineage. Oh, it's going to thunder. The lineage of this royal bloodline. Well, obviously the royal bloodline is Judah. The top of the tender branch of the line of Judah, the tender branch, was Jeconiah. And they took Jeconiah and the seed of Judah through Jeconiah to Babylon. And the Lord says, will it succeed? No, it's not going to succeed. But I myself will take up a tender branch and I will transplant it into the mountains of Israel. The mountains of Israel is the 10 tribes. So the true lineal descendant who's going to reign over the world is going to be in the 10 tribes, in the nations. It's not going to be with Judah. But this one that they took to Babylon is going to try to succeed. And that's why it says Judah will have the scepter, or the ruler's staff. And it will not depart from Judah until he who comes who has the legal right. The one who has the legal right from Shiloh was the one who was of Bethlehem. Bethlehem was originally called Ephratah. David was of the lineage in the city of Ephratah. That is a place where both, it's on the border of Judah and Ephraim, because they were originally Ephraimites, but Elimelech didn't have any more children, and Naomi. And so Ruth, their daughter-in-law, ended up having this Levirate marriage with Boaz, the Judahite, from Judah. And they are raising up seed for Joseph. So King David was of the line of Ephratah, which goes back, the whole city there was named after Miriam, Moses' sister. And she also had a priesthood, and they had temples there, and they revered the mother. But Yahweh divorced himself from the woman. And this is part of what people don't understand. They understand Israel being the woman, or a covenant. But they don't understand it literally was that there was a wife. But Yahweh didn't like it and was jealous and angry and sent her away. And said that she was going after her lovers, and you know, and it's all this talk like some fertility rite. The separation was the Adam from the Eve. Yahweh's lower consciousness was separated from the other consciousness that's higher. And he was vengeful and evil and wanted commandments and so forth. So that's the ruler's staff, the royal bloodline that went to Babylon. And that's why the Judeans never came out of Babylon. The scepter is in Babylon. That's why it's called Babylon Mystery, Babylon the Great. Come out of her, my people. They never came out. They never turned unto the true Messiah, because when that Messiah came, does anything good came from Nazareth? What, he's a Galilean. Nothing can come from that. He's from the nations, the circuit of the nations. Right? He's from some woman that we don't even know who she is. From a virgin. This is a pagan idea. They didn't like it. This is the man child born from the woman. And who is that woman? Well, it's Naamah. Another woman named Naamah was Noah's wife, was the daughter of Lamech, who was the seventh in line from Cain. So this happened over and over again. Joseph marries Asenath, which is the Egyptian high priestess of the lineage of Ham back to Cain. So they rejected the 10 tribes or the nations. They separated themselves, Judah. They divorced her. And all the temples of the nations revered the woman. But Judah put the woman in subjection. Oh my goodness, it's going to rain. It really is. So the royal bloodline to this day, is not just somebody who is, by some crazy reason we don't understand, every one of these nations has their own bloodline, and they're all somehow related? Well, yeah, they're related because it's Jewish. And the rest of the nations don't have a king, because the Jews rule over the other 10 tribes. But they're all scattered all over the world. So, in every nation, I mean, even in America where we don't have kings, just presidents, the people who become presidents are of this particular lineage going back to Judah. Now, some of them have lineages going back to Joseph too, in other nations, but that's not important to them. They trace their lineage back to Judah, and they won't allow a Levite to be king, or a descendant of Joseph, or Gad, or Naphtali, or anybody else. It's got to be from Judah. And the scepter will not depart from Judah until the one who comes who has the legal right, which is our Messiah, who's already been transplanted, a tender branch in the top of the tree, transplanted into the mountains, plural, or the 10 mountains, 10 governments of Israel. And that's the priesthood of the other nations. And the firstborn, or the high priest, was Jesus Christ. And when Jesus and Mary Magdalene married, they had children, and they went to Marseille, France. And from there, the descendants of Mary Magdalene also continued on with St. John the Presbyter, which is the elder, which is the one that was commissioned to watch over Mary, and her children, which is all of us. And so these knights are the ones that have been protecting this scripture and the holy blood, so that they can continue, because these inquisitions and murders and martyrdoms have been going on all this time. But they got us down to where they got to America, and they gave us a constitution of liberty and justice for all. And now it's in our hearts, and they can't take it away. So they're using deceit. They don't even want you to know who they are. But in every country, it is this royal bloodline that is Jewish. They don't care if you call them kings, as long as president's good enough for them. But President Trump, or the supreme leader of Iran. They're all from the same royal stock. How do I know? Because it couldn't be any other way. Because they have all the money in the world. They run the banks and the law association, the Levitical Cohens and the Levites that run the bar association. So no other group of people could ever gain supremacy or attain, because they don't have the money. And they don't even know what's going on, because they've got all this propaganda going around, so we don't even know who we are. And we don't know the history of how they've taken us over in every country. So what's going on over there, friends, what I'm saying, is what's going on over there in Iran today. Now, some of these people that are involved may not know. Hegseth may not know or understand this. He's just a little guy puppet. He loves Trump and he's trying to please him. He don't know. Right? These people like Ted Cruz doesn't know what's going on. He believes in Israel because that's what he was taught in Sunday school. A lot of them don't know. I think Trump does. And I think Putin does. I think these elites like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and these guys know what they're doing. But they think they got a divine right. And they think they're going to lie to us because we wouldn't accept going back under the law without being coerced. So they're making anarchy and chaos so that we're going to get to a place where we just can't take it anymore. And we're going to think that being back under the law of Moses and being stoned for adultery and whatever else, slavery, you leave your master, you're stoned, and that they're going to rule and reign over us, and we're going to beg for that again because we get so tired of them rioting and all this chaos, and we're going to say, please give us some law and order. And we'll all get the mark of the beast, which is the law of Moses written in your hand and your forehead, or you will not be able to buy or sell under the new world order. Anyway, I'm just going to leave it there, guys. And try to get this uploaded. It's just raining cats and dogs. I don't even know if you can hear me over the rain. But it's nice. It's nice to see the rain. Oh, I just left the window open in my truck. I got to run out and get that. We'll see you guys tomorrow. The Lord loves you. He loves you all. He will bless you. See you tomorrow. Have a good one.